Now ahead of Game Week 20, I've asked my FPL experts for their top transfer recommendations, and in today's video, we're going to go through their picks. Now before we dive into today's video, I just want to say a massive thank you to everybody that has supported the channel in 2024. If you didn't know, we were aiming for 11,000 subscribers before the end of the year. You guys absolutely smashed it. So thank you very much for your continued support. Hopefully we can take this into 2025 and build something very, very special on this channel. Let's first off start off with the first experts pick, and it is going to be Trent AlexanderArnold. And you know what? After that 15-pointer and the massive damage he did to my rank, I am also looking a little bit at Trent. Unfortunately, though, there are a few things that I do think hinder Trent AlexanderArnold. So let's start off first with the kind of hindrance, I would say, for Trent AlexanderArnold. Number one, it is going to be that price. How do you get him into the team is obviously going to be the first big question a lot of FPL managers have got. I think we might potentially be moving a little bit away from a change in template. I think a lot of us will be dropping that third forward spot back down to a kind of 4.5 million forward, as a lot of the cheaper forwards have now kind of fallen away. You're thinking of João Pedro, Visser, Evan Nielsen, Delap, all these great options we had. Strand Larson, another one in there as well. We're of course going to be losing Cunha to either an injury or suspension in game week 20 as well. So I feel like a lot of teams are probably going to be looking to kind of drop that third striker spot down to a cheap forward and look to start to put some of that money into the back line. And I think that is one of the things that could open the door for people like Trent, and maybe the money issue might not be one of them. The other issue I do think could be the injuries that Liverpool have sustained at the back. Obviously no Canate, now they've lost Joe Gomez as well, and Kwanzaa I don't think is at the same level. However, they haven't lost Van Dijk, who is of course going to be the key player in that back line. He's going to be able to keep everybody together and keep that defence ticking. They have also got Alisson back as well, so that's also pretty good player to have back in that back line, isn't it? Because he's so good at keeping Liverpool in games. Now let's move on to the pros on why a lot of people I think will be looking at Trent AlexanderArnold over the next few weeks. The fixtures, as you can see here from a defensive standpoint, I think are pretty decent. United not really putting up too much of a threat at the moment. Nottingham Forest I know are second in the Premier League, but not a team that goes out and absolutely batters anybody. Brentford, very kind of leaky. Ipswich, again, same policy with that one. Bournemouth as well, pretty decent fixtures. And if you look at the 11-5 clean sheet data, Liverpool are currently sat second over the next 5 game weeks. As well, if we look at expected goals per 90 for defenders, Trent AlexanderArnold sits top. If we look at points per 90 as well, Trent, yep, he's also top as well. The only thing I would say on that is he's not top on both of those metrics by a country mile. You've also got people like Gvardiol, Munoz, I think Ashley Young's in there as well for the predicted points one, same with Aina as well. So these other cheap defenders are also kind of combating around Trent. So maybe if you're a little bit unsure whether or not to put the money into the defence, maybe that could be one thing that goes against it. That's something I've kind of worked with over the past few weeks, going for these more cheaper defenders rather than looking at the premium assets, and it served me very well. Obviously I've got some big scores out of Aina. Kirkes has done me exceptionally well as well. I know people, when they've owned Nuri at the right time, have also obviously benefited massively from him. And Munoz, now one of the popular picks. He's currently sat third in the Premier League amongst defenders for expected goals involved. So maybe putting the money into the back line might not be the play with, I would say, questionable data. I think when you're paying that 7.1 million price tag, I would want a little bit more clear data from like a 4.7 million defender. However, it is Liverpool. They have been one of the best teams for XG conceded this year. Like I said, good data coming up from 11-5 as well over the next 5 game weeks. So maybe it is going to be more clean sheets rather than those attacking returns. But I definitely think there could be a few more big hauls coming up for Trent. So you know what? I think I probably would maybe take the gamble on Trent AlexanderArnold if I am looking for a defender, and of course I do have the money as well. Let's move on then. Let's keep with the defender theme, and what I wanted to talk about here was the Arsenal defence as a whole. Now I had a few people recommending, of course, Arsenal defenders, and someone rightly pointed this out to me, that over the past few weeks owning one Arsenal defender hasn't been good enough to get the points out of them. In kind of, accumulation, you're probably looking at like 120% effective ownership. So what you really need is actually 2 Arsenal defenders to actually get anything out of a clean sheet point. Now, a lot of us probably own one at the moment. Maybe that's a Gabriel, a Timber, a Saliba, a Raya. They're obviously the kind of defenders that everybody's choosing from this side. So I think, again, looking at, like I said, the change probably in the template coming up, a lot of people are probably going to be ditching that third striker. Maybe with strong fixtures, and as we can see from the 11-5 data here, some strong clean sheet percentages, it could be worth going for that double up. And that is what some of my experts are, of course, looking to do over the next few weeks. Get in on this Arsenal defence, go double, or some are even potentially looking at a triple as well. I know, I think it's FPL Prem Tipster might be on a triple as well. Great YouTube channel, by the way. Makes excellent captaincy videos, so please feel free to go and check him out. But I think he might be on triple Arsenal defence at the moment. I think Andy might be as well. Let's Talk FPL might also be on triple Arsenal defence. But like I said, strong data as well in terms of XG conceded, good projected data as well coming up. I think, realistically, I think a lot of us are probably going to have that double up if we are, of course, looking to get anything out of that Arsenal defence. It seems like they're still very, very solid, not really conceding too many chances either. Of course, the game over the Christmas period against Ipswich, 0 expected goals faced. I think that kind of exemplifies the strength and quality that this Arsenal defence do have as well. Of course, they're scoring a lot from set pieces as well this season, so if you haven't got Gabriel, he's probably the one I would be looking to pick up. Of course, if you do have Gabriel, maybe you're in the market for a goalkeeper. I know a lot of people have missed out on Flecken, and of course maybe Fabianski, so again, if you can find that money, Raya might be a decent shout. Saliba and Timber, I probably would say I would say lesser favourites, but of course if you do need them, I probably would slightly go for Timber over Saliba right now in my personal opinion. But like I said, definitely probably going to be worth doubling up on that Arsenal defence, maybe even worth a triple up over the next few weeks. Let's move on then, keeping with the defender theme, we're heading to the other end of the spectrum, and it is going to be the cheap Fulham defenders. Of course, we've been blessed with 2 here, both Timothy Castagne and Joachim Andersen as well. Both pretty, recognisable names within the Premier League. Both played quite a few seasons at kind of decent-ish levels and shown that they can be good FPL assets. Of course, both of these players are coming in at a rock-bottom price of 4.2 million. And I know a lot of you might potentially be on a wildcard as well, with, of course, the wildcard resetting in game week 20. Some people, their teams might be in pretty poor shape. They might be looking at 2 cheap defenders, or at least 1 cheap defender that potentially could, enable some more expensive players to be within the side. And I do think Andersen and Castagne will be absolutely fantastic options if you wanted to go down that route as well. Both coming in, like I said, at that 4.2 million. Fulham as well have been a pretty decent side for expected goals conceded so far this season, so that's a big tick. Of course, their projected numbers as well on the 11-5 model, I believe they were 5th over the next 5 game weeks for those projected clean sheets as well. As you can see down the bottom, a great next set of 3 fixtures, but that continues. It's a really, really good run of 8. I think there's only 1 difficult fixture where, of course, you would have to rotate them, but you don't mind kind of benching a 4.2 million asset. If I was to pick one right now, I probably would go for Timothy Castagne with the changing system that Fulham have gone for over the past few weeks with a 3-back system, with Castagne and Robinson pushed up extremely high within the wing-back roles. However, that could very easily change with more easier opponents coming up over the next 5 to 6 game weeks, and they might revert back to a 4 at the back system. But for now, I probably still would take that little bit of a gamble on Timothy Castagne and hope that he can pick up an attacking return as long as kind of some decent clean sheets across that period. Let's finish up then. Let's take a look at the final 2 players that my FPL experts did recommend ahead of game week 20. Of course, we kind of alluded to it at the start. It is going to be the Cunha replacement. There was obviously a lot of strapping and ice around his knee or kind of his groin area when he went off against Tottenham the other day. So that's obviously going to be, one player that a lot of people are probably going to be looking to replace. Like I said, there is that option to downgrade him to a 4.5 and, of course, utilise that money going further forward as well. So if you've got the budget, I think Isak is the best. Like, if you look at his expected goal involvement numbers per 90, he's only just behind Erling Haaland, who you have to pay an elevated price point at 14.8 million. If you look at 2024 as a year as a whole, obviously Alexander Isak is sat 3rd for goals behind Mohamed Salah and Erling Haaland, and you're getting this guy for 9.1 million. Tottenham have been pretty shaky as well defensively. Wolves still obviously quite leaky as well. I think the Bournemouth game for Alexander Isak is pretty difficult on this list. Of course, I am filming this before he plays Manchester United tonight, so please do just make sure that he is fully fit and available to go and play in game week 20. Of course, then let's move on to Chris Wood. I feel like a very, very popular asset coming in for most people's teams for Cunha this week. Again, it's probably because they're, very similar priced. Both coming in at 6.6 million. As you can see, the past 5 game weeks haven't really been his forte. Obviously, Forest have had a few more difficult fixtures. And you know what? The data's not really been there, but obviously that performance against Everton has put him back on people's radars. As you can see, Wolves away, pretty decent fixture. Liverpool at home is going to be a difficult test, but obviously if you can rotate around him, I don't mind it too much. And then, of course, Southampton away in game week 22, a very, very appetizing. Unfortunately, my computer just crashed as I was describing an appetising fixture coming up for Chris Wood against Southampton. Then I would probably move on to say about the negatives. So let's do that. Let's dive into the negatives as well. The computer crashes completely put me off what I was going to say. But let's move on to the negatives then. I have noticed a little bit more of reduced minutes over the past few weeks for Chris Wood. I don't know whether or not that's obviously the festive period. A lot of games coming up in quick succession. However, Awoniyi has been coming off the bench, but not really doing too much, I would say, to impact Chris Wood's minutes. So I do still feel like he is going to be the #1 striker for this side. The only other thing I would say is I don't think Nottingham Forest, are a very, very prolific attack. They're more defence focused, and we've seen that. That's why they've been so successful this year. The strong expected goals conceded numbers, obviously the clean sheets that they've been able to pick up as well. They haven't really kind of been putting any teams to the sword, I would say. They've kind of just been winning games 1 or 2-0 rather than absolutely battering teams. So maybe that's the downfall of Chris Wood. However, though, usually when, Nottingham Forest do score, Chris Wood does have some sort of goal involvement in it. So if they are going to get any kind of points out of it, I think it probably is going to come from Chris Wood. And they've got a very much a Leicester City vibe to this side, haven't they? I really, really hope that they can go and push Liverpool all the way. It would be absolutely amazing to see, not only from an FPL perspective, because we get to, work with some assets that mainly, don't really usually get pick up, Aina, Wood, all these other great, fantastic players that Nottingham Forest have got as well. And from a Premier League perspective as well, it'd be really, really exciting to see Liverpool pushed by kind of an underdog, a minnow. It'd be great to see. But yeah, that's going to end today's video from my FPL experts. Let me know what you think of their picks down in the comment section below. Of course, if you've got any questions about your team as well, let me know in the comments and we'll try and help you out as best as we can. But thank you very much for watching today, ladies and gentlemen, and good luck in game week 20.